Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the RF podcast. My name is Mark Remie. I am an editor from railfreight.com. We are here at the wonderful RailTech Europe, the event organized by our sister publication RailTech in Utrecht. Wonderful event, already a lot of people coming. But let's get into the podcast. First and foremost, let me introduce our guest speaker, Mark Remie from Nexrail. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And with me, I also have a co-host, which is not Dennis nor Nikos for today. We have Diogo Ferreira Nunes, which came all the way from Portugal. He cooperates with RailTech and RailFreight as a freelance journalist. Welcome, Diogo. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Marco. Hello, Mark.
And what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about locomotives, especially for the rail freight market. That's why we have an expert like Mark Remie here with us. Maybe let's start right away with what does Nexrail do? What is your company about?
Yeah, Nexrail is founded in 2021, and we are into the next generation of locomotives, because we believe that the market is ready to embrace the new technology.
Yeah, definitely. It's we know that the rail freight market is a market that moves quite slowly, but now maybe it's the time to change gear.
Yep.
And you said that with Nexrail, well, you said we all know, but with Nexrail you started an initiative to let's say create a new maybe type of locomotive. Can you tell us a bit about it?
We tried to make a new platform and to figure out what's next. And what we found out is that the market is ready to go from diesel only to diesel hybrid, from diesel to battery only, and that if you add a battery to mainline electric locomotives, that creates all kind of new opportunities, and that's very exciting. And we are the company that puts the money where the mouth is.
Yeah.
So,
because we see that exactly like Europe and the world in general wants to get wants to stop with fossil fuels, and finding new ways of powering things is the name of the game. And we see that there has been some diesel electric hybrid locomotives coming up. But you said that if you put a battery on a locomotive and you make it, as you say, smart, and maybe you can tell us a little bit what you mean by that, it can really be a game changer, both in terms of operational quality and especially financial savings.
Yeah, for sure. And where we started basically with the idea that in freight, everything is under cost pressure. It's very difficult to convince people to just become green and to pay more. So what you see in all our products is that we look to the market first, and if we are green, then we tick the two boxes, and then we are like, okay, this really makes sense. And with the diesel hybrids, you save on fuel. So HVO, for example, is the more expensive fuel. And with if you hybridize that, you make the system more efficient. We are reporting now fuel consumption savings up to 50% compared to similar locomotives without. We also found out that if you do this with battery shunting locomotives, actually you can shunt almost all day on the battery. Yeah. And that's what you asked me about. If you add a battery to a mainline locomotive, then everybody says, all right, now I can drive the whole way on the battery without the catenary. But we figured out that if you add the battery, you can do so much more, because basically you already have a running battery which is constantly connected to the grid. It's extremely powerful because it's a train, so you have all the expensive electric stuff already on board that a stationary battery also needs. And what then happens is you can completely rethink how you drive trains, but also how a network works, and how you and the cost build-up, and what that means to efficiency for trains. And what we see on long-distance trains, you can easily save more than 20% on the energy bill.
Yeah, which in this day and age is not an irrelevant expense. And before we dive a bit more into the battery into the battery locomotive that you mentioned, maybe we can touch upon what have been some attempts to find alternatives to diesel. For example, we see with hydrogen, there's a lot of talks about how hydrogen could improve or could be an alternative to diesel power. Is hydrogen going to be just a pilot phase in rail, and why not?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it will stay a pilot phase. We see that in the total cost of ownership, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So the fuel itself is too expensive. The OPEX and the CAPEX of the machine are too high. And if you compare that to the battery business case and use case, then battery is the absolute winner.
Yeah. But still, which are the lessons you can take from this investment in pilot projects based on hydrogen, and that now you can transfer to these new kind of locomotives you are buying now?
Yeah, for example, the maintenance of a fuel cell is way more expensive. So, and actually that goes for a lot of dual mode locomotives. If you add a diesel engine to an electric locomotive, you reduce the high performance locomotive back to a low performing diesel locomotive, because a diesel locomotive needs up to 4 times more maintenance just because it has an engine with more mechanical components. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not a high performance machine. And so it's a matter of balancing, and the same goes for hydrogen. For example, in practice, they found out that charging of hydrogen is complicated because you pump hydrogen in at high pressure, the hose freezes at minus 280 degrees, and then you cannot disconnect it anymore. And then what if the tank is not completely empty and you want to repair it in a hole? It's explosive stuff. So yeah, it's all kind of operational things which people are finding out now. Yeah, and if we then look at it, I close my Excel file quite quickly again.
So the big problem with hydrogen is not only the expense of it, but there's also a safety component that needs to be taken into account.
Yeah, and if you talk to industry, so we supply the industry. For example, in steel, hydrogen is a process. Is part of the process. You use hydrogen as part of the chemical reaction to make steel. So if you ask them what you want to do with the hydrogen, make steel or put it in the loco, they say, give me a battery loco and we make steel.
Yeah. I mean, also it makes sense as well, because for steel production, probably there's no alternatives to hydrogen, whereas for powering locomotives, you can find more solutions. And among all this, before we talk about operators and again the use of these locomotives, I think we have to touch upon the role of also rail infrastructure managers. What can they improve in the transition to net zero, and what is your message for them?
Yeah, good question again. I think first of all they need to figure out what the benefits of the new technology are. I mean, if you now look already in the Netherlands, for example, infrastructure investments that are being done, the new lines, Maasvlakte shunting yards in Rotterdam, or the Maas line, Venlo to Nijmegen, or the new lines that they are building up in the north of the Netherlands. I mean, if you now plan these lines with the traditional way of building railway lines, then you would electrify them from start till end. Yeah. And yeah, I think with the new technology, you could argue to only do it half, or even make electricity islands. A big shunting yard, why electrify it 100%? Do it for 10%.
Yeah.
And then make double the number of tracks, put the money in the infrastructure and in the effective infrastructure. Because if you have more battery locos, I mean, you could argue that, leave a big chunk of the electrification away, and that saves a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly, and time probably, because it also takes time to build the infrastructure for electrification. So it would also save them money, let's say.
And the trend is already set. In northern Germany, they are building islands. In Scandinavia, they are developing them as we speak.
So there is some reception in Europe. The mood is changing, let's say.
already
very
in
slowly,
Germany,
probably.
140 BMUs are already ordered. So that's the passenger trains with the battery.
Yeah.
So it's not me saying this, it's already the market ordering the stuff. We are just the guys ordering the locomotives for the freight.
Yeah.
And we added an extra layer, that's the intelligent part of it.
Yeah, because anyway, these types of locomotives, but you can apply the same technology to passenger trains, then it would, both the users of railways would not necessarily need 100% electrification because of this of
Exactly.
the battery.
Because like in the secondary lines, so if you look at Europe, the main lines are electrified. Yeah. But if you look at the secondary lines, then the tunnels come, then the bridges come. The geography makes things extremely complicated and extremely expensive. And then, for example, in Scandinavia, because of the very long distances, they say, wow, if we can just skip electrifying a tunnel, for example, just have the catenary until the beginning of the tunnel and until the end. That saves so much money.
And you also have to close the rail track for months or even years to put the catenary system, because you need to remove the rail track and then install the catenary and then put it back.
And maybe I may give another argument. You could argue to de-electrify some parts of the network. So if there are networks which are electrified but not used so much, you can maybe say, okay, let's build an industry here or give the electricity to the city which is next to it, and we make smarter use of the infra that's already there, but give back what we don't need.
Especially again in this day and age where we're talking a lot about energetic independence for Europe. This seems like it could be an easy solution. And for this, do you think that there is openings in the European Union? Like, there's I don't want to call it maybe a market, because it would kind of be like giving back, but governments seems to be open to this.
Yeah, I think so, but they just started thinking about it. So, and therefore, I think also this message we are giving now is just to give a first push on, start rethinking, and we will help, but also help us rethink this issue. But if we all rethink this, money in this world, the budgets are the most important drivers, so if you can do the same infrastructure with 20-25% of the cost, who does not want that?
Exactly. And what can they do, especially maybe European institutions? Because I personally think that if we leave this up to national governments, then probably it will never happen. But what can European institutions do to facilitate this transition, let's say?
I would say start with rethinking what you could do, and also incentivize. And for example, if and that's what you see in a lot of network, that electricity is a problem. So we are here in Utrecht. Most big stations have an issue between 7 and 9 in the morning because it's rush hour. And the networks are based to have like 100% of the capacity at these moments. But the networks complain, we cannot drive more trains because we are on the limit. But most of the time they are on the electrical limit. So if you have a battery train, either it be a freight train or a passenger train, it can boost 50% of the taken capacity from the battery of that peak. So you could argue, or I drive more trains in the rush hour without adjusting the outside the railway infrastructure, or I just consume less energy as a system and give that back to the country.
What do you think is the best of those two? Or would they have to pick one or the other, or could they do once they do one thing and the other day they do the other?
Actually, you could do both, because even if you connect all the trains together, so Nexrail, we ordered 200 Euro 9000 with a battery. So that means we have a virtual rolling high capacity battery system of 120 megawatt hour. I mean, that could help balance the market. You could theoretically call it in when the network is collapsing, if there is too much power demand, if it could boost back some energy. I mean, things like that you could do. I'm just giving a few ideas what you could do, but like you can only do it if you have a smart management of your battery train.
And now Nexrail can convince governments or even some customers or even some competitors to join you in this fight for a smarter energy management on the rail tracks.
Yes.
How can Nexrail contribute for this and convince all these stakeholders?
That's good. What we do is actively invest in what we believe. So we made the concept, we developed it, and but we also place the order. And then we go actively to the railways to convince them, hey, look at this. Or actually the story convinces itself. So we just come with the facts and what we studied and we show what we think. And actually a lot of railways like it. They are very open, they share info with us, how they see it. And then we make a complete story out of it. And that's why we also made the investment, because we have a lot of support from clients, and the first locos are rented already, even if they are not built, and we have to prove that the technology will work. But yeah, I mean, basically we do nothing new. We just put existing technology on a train. So yeah.
Yeah. So there is movement, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first order, at least let's say in Europe, but probably in the world, for locomotives of this type.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the first train order in the world for smart battery trains. Because all the passenger trains with batteries are technically, from a battery perspective, not intelligent.
Yeah. But do you want to maybe explain us why? We've been through this before the podcast, but maybe for our listeners as well.
No, I mean, the not smartness of a battery train is that you need to give it rules when to charge. So if a rule is that the battery always needs to be full and you are driving at top speed, then the battery is not empty to capture recuperation. And you want to recuperate because that saves money, that saves capacity. So if you want to make it smart, then you need to add a few layers to that. So that comes with recuperation. You can buy electricity every 15 minutes. If the battery is big enough to deliver electricity for 15 minutes and then 15 minutes later charge and drive at the same time, and that's what you can do with trains, then you can choose every 15 minutes. And there are very big gaps per 15 minutes on the electricity market. And like we told before, we found out that if you do that structurally, you can save up to 20% on the energy bill. But also another thing we found out, did you know that if you connect a train to the catenary, that it will just consume 2% of its capacity by being connected because of the transformer? So we asked our manufacturer to put an electric start-stop on the loco.
So like a car when you're stuck at the traffic light.
Yeah, I want to disconnect from the catenary, and it's a kilowatt here, a kilowatt there, but it's so many kilowatts over so many elements, and that's what adds up, and that's what we figured out, and that's what we. And in that way, you can make batteries smart. And now the question is, how will networks deal with it? Do we give the price benefit to the client? Or will the network call and say, wow, actually your plan is much better for us because we cannot invest in making the network heavier. We will give you an incentive to always boost in the network. But if I boost a lot, then I can trade less. So, we can look for trade-offs, and that's still in the development phase. But either we choose the one direction or the other one, we have to figure out. But there are multiple angles to the benefits.
There's multiple paths.
And where we will see these smart battery trains, in which countries from 2029?
Dachi BNL. For the people that know, so that means on the Rotterdam to Genoa 10T main corridor to start with. Which is
probably allegedly the most important in Europe, the Rhine-Alpine corridor, connecting two of Europe's main ports.
And then another benefit there is that you can kick out a second loco for the Alpine transit, for the lighter trains, which is already 60 to 80% of the market. So. We expect, and we always make the joke. We ordered the most expensive loco in the world, most probably, but because of its functionality in operation, it's built for efficiency. And in railways, I mean, everybody complains railway is expensive, but railway is also expensive because it's inefficient.
Yeah.
And we talked also a lot about, okay, this loco, how do we make it efficient as well? So you just continue driving on the battery last mile. You save the second loco in the Alpine. Then you trade the energy. You make a new energy contract with your supplier. And all these little elements that make, now in theory, this a very, very attractive proposal. And, these extra costs are totally overcompensated by the benefits.
In how many years, by the way? Based on your calculations, how much time does it take to offset the benefits and the costs?
Immediately. And the more kilometers you drive, so the more productive the system gets, the more you gain.
Okay.
And that's also what I told you about battery trains in general, that if you have a diesel engine and it starts, then you immediately drag down your competitiveness of an electric loco to a diesel system, which has 4 times more intervals.
Yeah. And then maybe a couple of questions for the specifics of the battery. First and foremost, does it change anything for, in this case, Stadler but manufacturers in general, in the building process of the locomotive to install the battery?
No, not really. I mean, they made a very intelligent modular design, so it's replacing the one by the other. But what is more important is that you look in the future. I mean, we as leasing company need to take a position on the total cost of ownership and the life cycle cost. And that's why we are now front runner in this. We figured out how that can work.
And for always about the batteries, you talked about life cycle. Do you already know the lifespan of the batteries and maybe what happens afterwards? Because we know that nowadays the problem with migrating to electric cars, for instance, is that we don't really know what to do with the batteries once they are no longer useful.
I mean, one thinking mistake is what that people make is that you need a cheap battery. And there are so many choices. It's like if you choose a tire for your car. If you have a racing car, you need a different tire than a 4x4, for example. I mean, it's a stupid comparison, but same goes for batteries. And you need to find the right fit. And we found a very good fit. So we have ultra high performance batteries. We have a cooperation with ABB in that. With these batteries, we have a very long life compared to the much cheaper, lower capacity battery. So what you put in a car, you absolutely cannot put in a train. So if you would have an electric car, normal electric car, you charge maybe once a week or something. But on a train, you charge it several times per day.
Yeah, almost constantly.
And safely, I imagine.
And safely, yeah. So our systems are fireproof. So the thermal runaway, where everybody is afraid of, in this podcast I will say it's not here. Repeat it.
Yeah, because also, as you said, that's also one of the reasons why batteries for electric vehicles cannot travel from China to Europe all the way on the rails, because China is, rightfully so or not, that's up to our listeners to say, but it doesn't want to put this what it considers very dangerous goods on the railways by itself to avoid possible big issues. Diogo, do you have maybe a couple of more questions?
Because Nexrail is mostly in Central European countries, if I'm not mistaken. But on your website, you have a very large map with countries you are interested in to expand. Which countries will be your priority, and how this acquisition of these smart battery trains can support that expansion?
I think it depends a bit on the market, on how well the market receives a product. I mean, we clearly make a choice for high productive machines, so that means you need to have a lot of traffic on routes where you can drive with decent speeds. We see that developing towards the north, so the Scandics, and that there is a wish to become completely zero emission, and the battery islands. Yeah. So that's a natural direction. And you see the development towards the east. So the Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, where it also makes sense. Maybe at some point we need to think about connecting Spain as well, because that's a very underdeveloped market at the moment. The French to Spain transit, but of course you get stuck in the
and then you have the Mediterranean corridor, for example. So okay.
The thing is, you need to drive as much as you can. That should be the goal. And that's the funny thing. So I challenged the whole design a bit, and I put LCC calculation up for 500,000 kilometers a year. So if you can imagine that an average corridor machine does about 200,000 kilometers, and what we found out, the combination with batteries, I mean, you can help railways to really strive for a production system like that. Just arrive at the station, uncouple, couple again, and go back. And with the digital automatic coupling coming up, with all the infrastructure investments, I mean, at some moment in time, it will happen that we can increase the kilometers, and then we are up front. We have we have the high performance vehicles for that.
And maybe since you mentioned digital automatic coupling, I just thought of something. Would the power of the battery could it be used also to power the DAC, so the connections between the various wagons?
Yeah, in the end, it doesn't need so much power. It's not necessary, but
it could happen.
It could happen. It's more that you are ready for the technology in the complete system.
Yeah. And maybe one final question to understand what is different for the rail freight sector. Is it harder for the rail freight sector to, let's say, become more green, even though I don't love this expression, compared to the passenger sector?
Yeah, because they are always second line. Yeah. So I don't think it's becoming more green is the problem. It's in general making money is the problem in rail freight. And I used to own a railway myself, and looking back at it, and the thing is, in bad times there is capacity on the network, but then the prices are low, so you make a little bit of money. And then in the good times, everybody's driving again, the capacity becomes scarce, the waiting times in the ports increase, you get more money you get more paid per ton, but the productivity of the system is half of the productivity in bad times. So you still cannot make money. And that's a general problem.
And the access charges are higher as well. And
the access charges get higher. I mean, why pay for parking of wagons if a truck is not paying for it? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's true. They can just park on the side of the road.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. And I look at it more from a strategic perspective. And now also the whole discussion with military mobility. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you, in state of war, want to keep up a network, then it's the railway network. All the people can use it. You can fix it relatively easily if something happens. Of course, not a big bridge, but still that one you can fix. And you can move masses of goods because it's a rolling conveyor belt. And that's not something you could do with a road system. And I think in Europe we are completely underestimating that. This is also why like steel industry relies on rail. It's so much, you do not want that on road. And same for automotive.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. I think exactly as you said, it is a time of change, and it's due time that people maybe open their eyes a bit and understand that.
And this final idea is extremely important about the importance of the military mobility, and now we need to pay more attention to what is being developed. And projects like Rail Baltica are thinking a lot about this, but we need to think way larger and broader.
Yeah, for sure. It's an integrated system, and also there, I mean, in the military, everybody's like, "Oh, we need to get back to diesel," and we are saying, "No, you don't, and you shouldn't, because put the diesel in a tank and let us deliver the hybrids and the ones with the battery. Then that's way more efficient."
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think right on time. I think it's a good time to end our podcast. Thank you very much again, Mark. Thank you, Diogo, as well.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Mark.
And I would say let's keep enjoying RailTech.
Let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.